So, My Hero Academia manga chapter 360 has been translated, and boy oh boy did we get a lot of action in this chapter, as well as a potential hint to how Shigaraki is going to be taken down within this arc. And we'll get right to that, but first, right after this. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Andrew, and I'm here to do my review of My Hero Academia manga chapter 360 titled Even After All That. And from what we've seen in this chapter, there is a lot of action in this chapter. For the most part, what we're seeing in this chapter is the big three going up against Shigaraki, rescuing Bakugo, and with Bakugo hinting at something to come when it comes to Shigaraki and his body, as well as making some cool and interesting inferences about Shigaraki and why he's doing the things that he's doing. So there's going to be some interesting stuff to talk about, and this is probably going to be a shorter review because there was just so much action in this chapter. So let's just dive right into the review right now. So pretty much for the first part of this chapter, we are just getting to see Shigaraki dominating Bakugo. He's insulting Bakugo. He's threatening Bakugo's life, saying that when it comes to Bakugo, that if he kills him and leaves a corpse, it's going to cause Deku to riot after the reaction that he saw during the war. And Shigaraki does a very interesting maneuver in this chapter because as Bakugo is trying to attack him, Shigaraki does the most disrespectful thing possible. He picks Bakugo up by his hair with his foot, throws him up, axe kicks his gauntlet on his left arm to break it, and while he's doing that, grabs Bakugo by his throat with his right arm. And it is an amazing moment because when this is all happening, Bakugo's like firepower just fires up in the air, so he's unable to hit Shigaraki this entire time, just showing how much Shigaraki is dominating him, even to the point where you get this one page of where it seems as if Shigaraki has killed Bakugo, but it's more of like one of those moments or scenes where we saw with like during the war of Bakugo seeming to be like decayed. It seems to be one of those moments, but yes, Bakugo gets dominated in this chapter, but then he has this shocked expression when it comes to Shigaraki and talking about how he's going to always live in the shadow of Midoriya, and the implication is that he sees Nejire coming in with an attack, where we get to see a new move from Nejire called Nejire Pike, as she shoots out a wave as if it's like a spike coming at Shigaraki from behind, but Shigaraki turns, puts Bakugo in the way, causing the pike to have to be skewered by Nejire. So Shigaraki is not holding back. He is using Bakugo as a hostage and trying to do everything in his power to make sure this kid gets horribly injured, maimed, and killed before Deku arrives. But even though Nejire was unable to land an attack in this moment, we got Tamaki, who was able to land a hit on him as well with his Octopus Mirage plus Cornucopia combination Scorpion Toxin. And you would think, oh yeah, poisoning. Shigaraki is in his non-quirked up state. He won't be able to regenerate. He's going to die from the poisoning. And he grows a mouth on the back of his arm, which is able to release the poison. So yeah, Shigaraki's body begins to adapt in a way that was unexpected. And by unexpected, I mean, no, actually no, unexpected. He's literally growing mouths everywhere. Like, literally, when his hands pop up everywhere with his little grubby fingers, they literally all have mouths with fingers and hands coming out of it. Oh my gosh, this is actually terrifying. But yeah, it's pretty much confirmed that Shigaraki's body is constantly growing, constantly adapting, and as he's trying to kill Tamaki in this moment, Mirio comes out of his way, rescues Bakugo, and throws him to safety. So Bakugo gets rescued, And we get to see some very interesting fighting maneuvers from Mirio in this moment, as you have Shigaraki looking at Mirio's like, oh, I remember your stupid face. I remember you from Jaku, where it is confirmed that when it comes to Mirio, he is the hero in charge of communication and defense, which makes a lot of sense. He does have a quirk that is very useful for communication as well as defense, as he explains that when it comes to information, that it is best for him because he's able to allow information to flow without a hitch, as well as it requires someone to be nimble to move across the battlefield. And when it comes to Mirio, he pretty much can do that in an instant. And this is something that we've kind of seen prior, because we've seen it during the war where he acted as a messenger to tell the people who were fighting Shigaraki about the plan to take down Gigantomachia. But you can argue that this is something that we actually saw during the overhaul arc, mainly because he was the one that was able to phase through the wall and gather information to the heroes. So this isn't something that is completely new for Mirio to do. Sure, Mirio can fight on the front lines, but with a quirk like his, it is good for both defense, as we saw how he was able to defend against Overhaul during his initial arc, as well as defend Eri from harm, which ironically enough is very similar to what he does in this chapter with rescuing of Bakugo. Mirio's best served less in a very combative role and more for communication, defense, and support. But that does not necessarily mean that he can't be supported, as we see in this chapter. Because as they're having this fight and as they're having some slight banter, Shigaraki reveals that because of this current system, it has failed miserably. So that's why he wants to destroy it. And then you have Mirio, who gets the funnest and best response to this critique. And he's like, oh, so you just didn't have any friends? As you just have Shigaraki like, huh? So this is very interesting, and it kind of tackles an idea that people have had about Shigaraki and potentially All For One, because as Mirio is about to say something just amazing, he thinks in his head that he doesn't really have that much combative experience or combative power to really land decisive hits on Shigaraki, which is why he's actually using Hato's energy waves on his arm to attack Shigaraki and land some massive damage, which is cool because Shigaraki literally can't touch him at all. And we just have this one page of literally seeing Shigaraki go for his head, go for his torso, they phase right through him, and he's able to attack Shigaraki with Hato's attack, as he declares that because if you had any friends or if you knew anything about them, then you should know that there are certain things that should never be broken. And this is where the interesting part about what Mirio says come into fruition, because we realize that when it comes to Shigaraki, yeah, no, he really didn't have any friends, both Shigaraki and even All For One, because you could argue that All For One did have a friend through Dr. Garaki, but then again, you have to remember this is All For One, who would manipulate his own little brother for his own gain. So yeah, he most likely than not didn't have friends that he actually cared about, and he also argued that he wants everyone to be below him, so that could most likely include the doctor. But when it comes from Shigaraki's perspective, yeah, it's kind of very much the same, where Shigaraki is someone that really didn't have any friends, didn't really build any like meaningful connections until really the League of Villains. And even then you could argue whether or not he really had a connection with them, because, you know, he attempted to kill 2 of them when they first met. But yeah, this is going to be something interesting, and I think this is going to be tying into something involving Deku with trying to rescue Shigaraki from All For One's clutches and potentially leading to Shigaraki's sacrifice. And this could lead to Shigaraki not necessarily sacrificing himself for the heroes, but sacrificing himself for his friends. Because if everyone decides, hey, Shigaraki, maybe we shouldn't destroy Hero Society, Shigaraki may respond with, you know what, you're right, I probably should believe you because you are my friends. You are my friend, I don't heal you, man. It could go down something like that, or Shigaraki could just say F it to his friends and say, oh, I never really cared about you at all. So there are many ways that this could go, and this is building on multiple ideas that can be going on with how Shigaraki's motives and where Shigaraki is going to be going later on in this arc and potentially towards the end of the story. So we're just going to have to wait to see where this goes. But now we're probably towards the final part of this chapter, which is pretty much just Best Jeanist trying to comfort his like mentee when it comes to Bakugo. He praises Bakugo for his efforts, but that unfortunately Shigaraki is just on a whole nother level, on a whole nother plane, and that what he needs to do right now is make sure that his arm is sewed up so that they can continue to fight. And then as he's talking and he realizes that really Bakugo isn't responding, he says that you just did an excellent job, you really don't have to do anything else. And we get to see like a cool thing, like a panel split, where we get to see that Best Jeanist is looking at Bakugo with a shocked expression on his face. As Bakugo is clenching the grass with his arm or with his hand, he begins to say, right finger, faint. As Best Jeanist comes to a realization that right now, even after everything that he has gone through in this fight pertaining to Bakugo, that Bakugo is not finished yet. So this is what I was talking about with a potential weakness of Shigaraki, because we saw in this chapter Shigaraki was holding Bakugo by his right arm. That is very important. He was being held by Shigaraki with his right arm. And something that I saw when the spoilers came out is that someone mentioned about the right finger or his right arm, and something interesting that I remembered is that I believe in chapter 340 or 344, and I may put a panel of it right here, we get to see that Shigaraki had a hesitation with his right hand. When he was about to touch the ground and decay it, his hand stopped. It prevented him from actually being able to do that. And there could be many reasons for it, but we know for a fact that this is something that Bakugo most likely noticed because he was grabbed by Shigaraki's right arm. Now, what could this entail? Maybe it means that Shigaraki's arms can only come out of his like left finger, where his finger was lost. Maybe when it comes to Shigaraki, maybe there's something wrong with his arm. Maybe it's a lot weaker and is like a weak point that the heroes can use and abuse. Maybe it could deal with his decay, and maybe that he's unable to use decay in that right hand. Or my idea, maybe it has something to do with Tenko. Maybe Tenko inside of Shigaraki, inside of All For One, is trying to fight back and trying to prevent people from dying, and that it's only able to do it in small bursts through the right hand. And this is even more interesting because guess what is also relevant to the main character, the main protagonist of My Hero Academia, Deku. He has important symbolism also with his right hand. So yeah, I think the right hand of Shigaraki is going to play a bigger role in the story, potentially going to be a weakness, potentially going to be involving with Tenko, and is potentially going to be the arm or be the hand that reaches out to Deku. So this is going to be very interesting moving forward, and this was just a very interesting chapter. And I didn't even bring up with Bakugo, you get to see some of his sweats turning into explosions, so this could also be a quirk awakening. So this could also be a quirk awakening or a quirk evolution. We're just going to have to wait and see for the next chapter or later on in the arc if this is where this chapter or this fight ends for now. So yeah, this is all I really have to say about the chapter. What did you think of the chapter? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Do you think that Bakugo should get a more in-depth fight? Me personally, I'm not necessarily sure that he should definitively get a bigger fight, but I think that this was still a very good fight for him to be in. So leave your thoughts down in the comments down below, leave a like on the video if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!